Do you feel like no amount of advice
Do you
helps
feel
you?
like how much ever you study, you still continue
No
to
amount
get
of hours
average
gets you
grades?
the grade you want?
Why do my grades never improve?
Am I just a failure? Should I give up on everything?
Well, you've just been studying wrong. It's funny how not enough people talk about this because it's easier to just get general study advice like how to study, but that hardly ever works because you're not the same as anybody else around you, be it your parents, your teachers, your friends, your sister, your brother, your homeboy, your gay bestie, whatever, dude. Since they are different people, see, essentially, in layman terms, they are not you, you are not them. So, what works for them will hardly ever work for you. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that you need to figure out what kind of a learner you are and what kind of study methods suit you so you can finally get that academic comeback running. Well, you can ask me, girl, why would I ever spend my time discovering what kind of a learner I am when I'm gonna be spending like 5 hours the day before the examination? True, I agree with you. But listen, you're gonna spend the least amount of time anyways. So if you knew what kind of a learner you are, wouldn't it make the process easier and faster? So you can speedrun that shit and go back to scrolling? Wait. According to the WARC model, WARC,
A person who thinks all
I don't know how you pronounce it. According to the WARC model, there are 4 types of learners: visual, auditory, reading/writing, which I like to term as verbal, and then kinesthetic learners. Visual learners are individuals who try to take in their information visually, hence the name, and they can associate more with graphs, diagrams, patterns, shapes, etc. etc. According to the definition, it says that they don't associate with photos and videos, but as a visual learner myself, photos and videos help me a lot to understand what I'm doing. It was easier if I got like a visual description of whatever the process was. So if you are a visual learner, those can take you a long way. So, what kind of study method should you use if you are a visual learner? The things that usually work for me are: 1. Flowcharts. Flowcharts can be usually used to describe how a process takes place, like in a sequential manner. This helped me a lot during biology. So, if you're explaining how a certain process takes place, like if you're talking about the nervous system, it goes from your brain and then to your nerves or something. I forgot. I'm not a biology student. 2. Mind maps. Mind maps were the game changer for me back in the day because if a lesson was more than 30 pages long, I lose my attention span because I have the attention span of a snail, of a earthworm. So I get bored really easily. So I usually do the mind maps before the lesson starts. So once I start getting into it, I will actually see how much I have progressed since the beginning, else I just get lost in between the lesson. And mind maps also give you a good picture on what the lesson's about and what are the main topics it covers. So it can be used before and after the lesson. You can either draw the mind map before the lesson and then check out the topics as you're studying it, or you can draw a mind map after the lesson, like blurt it out to see how much you remember from the lesson. Wait, I should have a copy of the mind map I did in 10th grade. I'm gonna take it out. I majorly used mind maps for geography. I used Cornell for the rest, but it was pretty detailed. Like there will be sections in your geography lessons, right? I did a mind map for each of that section because I usually just read from this. This, can you see? Is this visible? Is the camera picking it up? Yeah, so that's that. So this, oh wait, never mind. This is like the title and this will be the subheadings and the important points which I have to remember. Anyways, this is not my study material. I do not study from this. It says notes, but I usually use that for revision after I study from the textbook because when it comes to stuff like geography, which is a very memory based subject, you kind of have to know every single thing in a textbook. So yeah, I did that, I think, after I finished reading that lesson, so I can just revise the points before like the 20 different pre-board examinations. So, yeah. Ooh, pro tip. Do you know those experiment videos on YouTube? Especially for physics, if I get to see how something works or how something was built, then it really helps me understand the material and solve questions easier. Like, there is something so visually entertaining about seeing the depth of how something is built. So I really enjoyed such kind of videos. So that might help you as well. And this is kind of weird, but do you know the seminar presentations they ask you to do in class? That helped me. Well, seminars are useful on their own because the whole point of those seminars is for you to learn the material thoroughly so you can teach the class. But regardless of that, the presentations I made for seminars were so helpful because I used to put a lot of effort into them, and when I'm revising the material, I just look at the presentations and they're great. Here is one I made for physics in 12th grade, and this is one I made for chemistry in 12th grade. The two auditory learners. You know, there are like this some kind of species who just listen to teachers in class and still end up getting good marks in their exams. These are that kind of people. If you are this kind of person, hats off to you, because I cannot hold my attention span for more than 10 minutes. So as the name suggests, the learning style describes students who learn best when information is heard or spoken. They benefit from lectures, group discussion, and other strategies that involve talking things through. When it comes to study methods, the ones which are most helpful are 1. Lectures. These are the people who should be actually using lectures. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, check out this video here. But since they're highly receptive and their ears work really well, I think, and these are the kind of people who do well when their friend just explains the concept to them. Another tip is that you can record yourself explaining a topic. This is talked about before in a lot of other study videos, and if you're not using it, you can try this because it is essentially the Feynman technique back onto yourself, because you're the teacher and you're the student. So you're teaching the topic to yourself if you are the student, which you will understand because you're the teacher. What am I saying? You get it, right? You get it. You know those videos where people teach their stuffed animals and say they get like A+ in their examinations? This is that technique.
So our ACTH is going to bind to our cell surface receptor, which is going to lead to the activation of cyclic AMP. It is going to lead to the activation of protein kinase A. So far, any questions? Anyways, so...
Do you hear that?